what you want, what you want.
This is Mungo Dark Matter, and welcome to Dark Matters. Today we'll be discussing Battleground tips for the newbie in World of Warcraft. First tip is start early. You can start as low as level 10. Now I think a lot of people think, well, I'll put off Battlegrounds until I'm a higher level, get a little bit more experience, maybe better gear, yada yada yada. Well, that's not really a good strategy because Battlegrounds are bracketed. So for example, you can start at level 10, and the first bracket is level 10 to level 14. The next bracket is level 15 to level 19. So there's never anybody in your bracket that's more than 4 levels above you. So you're kind of in a bracket where people are in similar levels. Now some of them may have better gear and more experience. And when you first enter a bracket, you're going to be at the lower level, so there are going to be a bunch of people who are above you. But as you move up in levels, you'll move up in the brackets so that there will be more people that are a little bit below you than in some a little above you until you're up at the top of the bracket. Bad thing, of course, is once you're at the top of the bracket and you move up to the next level, you're at the bottom end of the next bracket. And so you kind of start over again in a sense. But this helps you kind of work through getting experience on Battlegrounds without having to be at a level where you're at a real disadvantage. Tip number 2, know your Battlegrounds. Most of the Battlegrounds are based on capture the flag or capture the base or a combination of the two. If you start at a lower level, another advantage you have is you'll learn the battlefields as you're going along, because when you start at the lower levels, you only have 1 or 2 battlefields you can play, and as you move up, more battlefields are added to that. My suggestion is each time you see a new battleground on the list that you can select from, go out and Google it and do a little research on the internet and find out what the object of the battlefield is, what the rules are, and what some possible strategies are for winning that battleground, so you have a better idea how to play it. It's a little bit hard to go into a random battleground or a new battleground not knowing what to do, because you pretty much have to just follow others and watch, so the first time you play it, you're not playing up to any sort of capacity. You're just kind of wandering around. So try to research the battlegrounds before you actually play them whenever possible. If you do play a battleground and you haven't read the rules about it, try to follow along, watch what people are doing, listen to the battleground leader and try to follow their directions as much as possible. And then, after you finish that battleground or that particular battle, go back and research it and look up the rules at that point. Tip number 3, select random battlegrounds. When you're picking Battlegrounds or asking to be queued up in Battlegrounds, select the option of Random Battlegrounds. Because when you select Random Battlegrounds, you get extra honor points if you win or lose on that battleground. And when you hit level 85, you'll actually get extra conquest points for every battlefield you win. So it's a great idea to use Random Battlegrounds. Tip number 4, save up and get your gear quickly. You really got a budget in World of Warcraft because you're going to need certain money or certain currencies when you hit various levels. Well, Battlegrounds are no different. At level 70, you can get certain gear that will last you through level 80. But once you hit level 80, you're going to have to get new gear. And once you hit level 85, you're going to have to think about getting new gear. So if you've saved up some honor points in between levels, you'll be able to use those honor points to buy the gear you need more quickly. The quicker you can buy the gear and get up to the kind of maximum gear level you can for any particular level, the better. Tip number 5. Know where to get your gear. You need to know where you can get your gear so you know what gear is available, basically. Look around. You'll notice, for example, in Stormwind City, there's an area where the quartermasters for honor goods hang out. Tip number 6. Plan ahead and save points for gear upgrades. Like I said before, when you hit certain levels, there's going to be new gears for those levels, and you'll start to notice that. Like, for instance, if you're at level 70, you can get certain gear. But you'll notice there's some gear you can't get until you hit level 80. So, save your points and budget them so that you're ready when you get to the next levels. The more money that you have saved up, the more gear you can buy right away. Tip number 7. Don't waste points on vanity mounts. Now, lots of people have interesting mounts. Some of them are dragons. Some of them are griffins. Some of them are other things you probably don't even know what they are. And a lot of these are basically vanity mounts. It's kind of, well, they look great, but another mount would do the same job. Basically, you want to have a ground mount because you're going to be able to ride on the ground faster than you will be in the air initially. And you'll want to have an air mount because after you get to a certain level, you'll be able to fly around, and that's much faster and actually much safer because you can actually get out of the way of certain things if you can fly up. Tip number 7. Oh, that was tip number 7. Tip number 8. Learn to use cannons and vehicles to your advantage. Particularly if you're like have lower gear and need to get better gear, you may be better off fighting using one of the cannons or one of the vehicles like a demolisher in some of the battlegrounds, because the cannon and the demolisher has its own health level. So in order for them to knock you out of the cannon or the vehicle, they'll have to get the health level of the vehicle or cannon itself down to 0. But you'll still have your health points once you're ejected from the vehicle or the cannon. So it kind of equalizes things up because you end up with a little bit more armor in a sense, and you end up with a little bit more firepower, you know, shooting with a cannon than fighting with, say, a sword. So it's a great idea to learn to use cannons and vehicles on battlegrounds and use them to kind of equalize things if you're at a lower level in the bracket or if you don't have the better gear that you would want in that bracket. I'm Mungo Dark Matter, and this has been Dark Matters. And whatever you do, have fun playing World of Warcraft.
What you want? What you want?
This is Mungo Dark Matter. Next time on Dark Matters, we'll discuss where you can find some of the gear that you can buy with honor points. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions on other topics, please leave a comment on this video or email me at mungodarkmatter@gmail.com.